our guest now, HuskerOnline, Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. It sounds like you would have known that Babe Ruth was who Hank Aaron surpassed for the all-time home runs leader.
It's a tough one.
Leave it to the ultimate babe in the woods, Stephen M. Sipple, to not know Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Now, here's the deal, Sean. As you know, I, of course, knew that. But you know that when you're live on live radio, sometimes you get caught. You just have a lapse. Of course, I knew.
We've had some bad ones over the years where, just an obvious thing, and you're like, how did we not know? I get it. We got to give you a hard time. I mean, that's what we got to do, right?
Oh, I'm getting a lot. I'm getting it from all quarters.
Text messages, correct?
Yeah, Greg.
Who is the winningest coach in Nebraska football history? You're like, ooh, I can't think. Tom Osborne. Yeah. I mean, that's about what that was there.
And there's a lot of people texting my personal text line, chastising me.
Yes.
And that number is?
Yeah, don't say it out loud. Again, don't say it out loud. You've done it before. He's done it on the air before, so it's great.
I've been with them when these texts come in from random listeners. It's quite a sight.
Yeah. Well, he did it to himself.
If you're a random listener that obtained his number, please text in about.
Please don't. We did not do that ourselves. That was you. Sean, last time we talked to you, we did not know that Nebraska and Tennessee was not going to be played in 2026-27. This was announced on Friday. Mm-hmm. How long was this in the works for, if you knew about that? And I guess your overall thoughts on how this all went down on Nebraska's side.
Yeah, I don't know how many weeks this has been in motion for, because, going back to the fall, late fall, when we talked to Troy Dannon, he talked about the stadium project at that point. And, one of the things, they wanted to have full capacity for the Tennessee game in 26 was something they brought up at that point, and how he knew that game was important to the fan base. Mm-hmm. So to see it kind of turn, that was a surprise, because you felt like the series is moving forward. Now, with that said, we've seen a lot of SEC Big Ten series get canceled. There's been 2 or 3, over the last couple of year or two, that have been canceled, and everyone's kind of, wow, the Nebraska-Tennessee thing is still alive, and they're going to play this thing. And then here we are now. And, Tennessee did this to Nebraska as well. Back in 2013, they asked Nebraska to move the 2016-2017 series. And this contract was signed, guys, back in 06. So it's a long contract that Steve Peterson put together many, many years ago. And then Tennessee had the game in Bristol Motor Speedway against Virginia Tech for 2016-2017. And their reasoning then was, we would like some schedule relief, because we don't want to play Nebraska and Virginia Tech on the same schedule. So Nebraska agreed. They replaced them with Oregon back then, and then they moved it to 26-27, a 10-year move. And now Nebraska they're kind of in their own pickle with the reduction of capacity and some of the budget things. And I think they asked Tennessee if they would move it again. And here we are. They didn't want to do it. Because we don't really know where schedules are going anyway. I mean, by the 2030s, we all know it's going to look a lot different. So this game was going to be played in 2026, 2027, or wasn't going to be played at all. Because I don't really think, putting it another 10 years down the road would have worked, especially with the low buyout number that was on that deal. And Danny White expressed his frustrations that the buyout was only $500,000 per year, which is extremely low for a game of that value. But that term was put into place back in 2006 when Steve Peterson and guys like Mark Boehm were running the show for Nebraska. It's a whole different time in college football. I'm sure Tim Cassidy, Bill, was probably involved in putting that game together back in 06.
Could have been.
What do you think, Sean? I mean, what's your read on the temperature of the fan base in terms of the fan base's reaction to that news on Friday?
I think the timing it's tough timing, because there's nothing going on right now. It's so limited with news. So here you have two great college football markets, and I'll use our measurement of On3. 2 of our 3 biggest sites in all of On3 are Nebraska and VolQuest. So you have just massively engaged, passionate fan bases that drive traffic, that drive clicks, that drive engagement. And when there's nothing going on, this was just served up to kind of dominate the news cycle. And they put it out on Friday, but it's still dominated, and it got a lot of play, a lot of headline. So yeah, I think people were opinionated about it. But I think at the same time, Ohio State's played 3 Group of 5 games. And they won the national title. The year before, Michigan did that. They won the national title. Indiana did it this year, and they made the college football playoffs. So we've seen the formula play out. When you play 9 Big Ten games compared to 8 in the SEC, you're at a disadvantage right there if you're in the Big Ten. And by adding teams like Oregon and USC and UCLA and Washington, it's almost like you've added non-conference games, because these teams aren't really traditional Big Ten teams to a lot of our fan base here. So I can argue it both ways, but I also obviously get the frustration because this was going to be a bucket list trip for a lot of Nebraska fans to get to go out to Knoxville, and also a bucket list thing to see an SEC team come into Memorial Stadium for the first time since the 80s. Wow. South Carolina came here, guys, but they weren't in the SEC yet. So you've got to go back to like the early mid 80s, the last time an SEC team traveled to Lincoln.
When did South Carolina come here, Sean?
Mid-late 80s.
Mid-late 80s. I got my
It's
media
been that
guide.
long.
I got my media guide right here.
87.
I can kind of. How do I not remember stuff?
They were not in the SEC.
You're right.
Yet,
they came here in 87. You're right. Nebraska was ranked second.
Auburn was here in the 80s. And I want to say Bo Jackson, right around the Bo Jackson era, they played here. But yeah, you don't get SEC teams to travel, period, let alone to Nebraska. I mean, this doesn't happen. So I think naturally that was probably like, it would be cool. I mean, this is kind of what it's all about. But as we know, college football is no longer what it's all about. It's completely different as far as how this game has changed, and it's going to continue to change.
You want some better times, Sean? Better times. 1987, Nebraska's non-conference schedule. UCLA, that was a 2-3 game.
Troy Aikman, UCLA, correct?
Yep. Arizona State at Arizona State, that was 2-12. Then South Carolina came to town. That was your non-con with Utah State.
They played 4.
It was Utah State. Yeah, Utah State to open was a nothing, but yeah, they played UCLA at Arizona State and South Carolina. Better times.
Yeah, that's what you could do that though in the Big 8 era, because you'd only have 1 or 2 real difficult Big 8 games. So it was just a different, and there weren't, you think about college football in that era, there wasn't like much of a lower level. I mean, it was the power conferences and maybe like the MAC. I mean, there just wasn't a lot of, like, now we have 120 some teams and they play these games for the money. Yeah, this was a different era as far as how you scheduled. I mean, you just didn't see, like, I remember when Middle Tennessee State came here. That was kind of like in Pacific. I mean, those in that time was like, whoa, like what's Nebraska doing playing Middle Tennessee State or Pacific? I mean, that was not common. Now, obviously, it's very common.
Good point, Sean.
So my Sean Callahan. Sean, speaking, we look ahead to April and the spring game weekend, and Troy Dannon told you and Sip last weekend, some potential ideas of things that could happen instead of the spring game. Flag football was being discussed, or maybe a volleyball spring match. What are you thinking in terms of what Troy said, and what could happen in April?
Well, first of all, we are going to add Adam Carricker to our team if it's a HuskerOnline team, and Coach Bush will be our honorary head coach.
All right, Bill.
He's never been a head coach.
True, but not true.
Whoa.
Me and Jerry Godowski were co-head coaches of the last win of the Nebraska freshman football.
You and Jerry were co-head. Yes. Well, we'll talk about that later. That's amazing.
We might have to draft Damon on our team too. But yeah, we should be okay. And Sipple will be our kind of a free safety on the back end. But
roaming out there, I see him sideline to sideline. Put a neck roll on him.
58 years old.
All right, well, you're seeing this everywhere. Alabama guys yesterday announced they're going to do a modified deal. They're not doing a spring game. I mean, it's Nebraska kind of came out first, but Penn State is one of the few that has said they still plan to do one. Iowa has never really done one for a number of years. They just do kind of a 15th practice. They're going to continue that model. But, Ohio State, Texas, USC, Florida,
Florida,
I think this is, they didn't know yet, but it felt like they were going in the direction of a modified deal. And I think as you see other teams doing it as a coach, you feel more comfortable. Like Florida with that quarterback, you really think they want to do much with him in a spring game setting? I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see because of the money involved in paying the players. I mean, now it's their money too. This is Nebraska's money. It's Florida's money. It's Alabama's money from the university directly paying these players. So I think you do look at this a lot differently, especially when the players could leave at any moment.
Yeah.
Sean, Big Time Media Days heading to Vegas instead of Indy. But you're going to Vegas this year for Media Days. Are you fired up, or you wish you were still in Indy? Where do you stand on this, Sean?
I will say this: I've already made a dinner reservation to the Golden Steer Steakhouse. Look it up. It's like the mafia renowned. I've always wanted to go there, so that's how excited we are. We're set to go. I think we want to do some shows out there as well. I'm sure you guys will.
Are we going?
I'm sure we're going. I'm sure the whole DP is probably bringing the whole operation out there too. It's going to be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. I think the Indy setup had gotten a little stale, in my opinion. And I thought last year's they moved it to 3 days, and it was just okay. I just think this will kind of pump a little bit more new life into the event. Maybe get it some more media exposure, some more media attention. And it will probably be. Flying to Vegas, believe it or not, guys, flying to Indy, and Jake, you can attest, it's A, hard, and B, very expensive. Flying to Vegas in July, I don't think is going to be expensive for media compared to Indy. And driving to Indy is a long drive as well. So I'm excited for it. It will be interesting to see the layout. If this is a 1-year thing, what drove this decision. But I'm sure, Petites is kind of looking to make more of a splash with the event.
I think it's an incredible
He's
turn
excited.
of events.
He's excited, Sean.
Yeah, I need this stuff late in my career, Sean, to keep me going.
Hey, I've taken you to Hawaii, Ireland, and now Vegas. I mean, I've just kind
New York,
completed
LA.
the trifecta.
Yeah, I've been all over it's been great.
Belton, Texas, Bucky's gas station.
He has a sticker still on his laptop from Bucky's.
Some really good barbecue down. Where did we go to that? Where was that barbecue that I liked? What was that?
Terry Black's.
He remembers it. Off the top.
Sean knows. Sean, he's got a memory like an elephant. Terry
Well,
Black.
we went to Rudy's the first year in Texas, and it's kind of more of a chainy, like a famous Dave's, but we thought it was really good. I got a lot of. But Terry Black's was one of the best, if not the best, barbecue I've ever had in Waco, and they have a couple in like Austin and other places.
People made fun of that Rudy's call, and Sean, you know me, I'm a chain guy. Rudy's, I thought it was excellent. I was startled that you were getting heat from people. Like, what? Really? We're getting criticized?
Well, they hosted the Baylor's coaches show there. So, like, when Rule was the coach of Baylor, like, his show was done, and they had, like, a set in there. I mean, it was a fine place. But Terry Black's was complete. I mean, Terry Black's is – I've never seen a barbecue place like that before.
It's pretty good. Good.
Sean, always good stuff. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you again next week.
Hey, thanks, guys.
HuskerOnline's Sean Callahan.